Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. This week we have mentioned that we're going to be talking about how God is our provider. And we think that this is such a crucial thing to talk about because so often we try to rely on people around us, our parents, our friends, ourselves, to really get the things that we want and need. And really it comes down to we need to focus on God as our provider, because ultimately he does provide everything. He created the entire world, and so he provides the air that we need. He provides food by helping things to grow and rain to fall, and provides water for us. And he blesses our parents and stuff to be able to have jobs that provide houses for us. And so it really comes down to God provides everything in the world around us. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that more today. And so our verse is going to be in Genesis chapter 22. Now you might remember this story because we talked about this story at youth group before, but we're actually going to talk about it again because it's actually a very important message, especially for this week. And so basically the story is, if you remember, Abraham was not given a son until he was very, 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 very old. And so his son Isaac, you'll remember that was his second son that was born, but it was the child of promise. So it was the child that God had promised to him for many years. And so Abraham absolutely loved Isaac, and he would do anything for him. But there came a moment in which God asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. And so Abraham and Isaac went up the mountain. They went to go and prepare a sacrifice to God because that's what they were asked to do. And ultimately, Abraham tied Isaac up and laid him down on the altar and got all the way up to the point of killing Isaac when God stopped him suddenly and said, "I know that you love me more than you love your son, and so I will provide a sacrifice for you." And so Abraham looked over, and in the bushes there was a ram that was caught there in the bushes. And so Abraham acknowledged that place, and he called that place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day, it says in the Bible, it is called "On the Mountain Where God Provided." And so this is such a powerful verse because instead of Abraham having to go through and kill Isaac, God stopped him and said, "You know what? I acknowledge that you love me more, and so I will provide for you." And so we're going to kind of just show a little bit about what it is for God to provide for us. And Marcus is going to go ahead and do that.
So in this case, we have that Abraham, who was already very old, had already received what is this provision from God, from the promise that was placed upon him. That was Isaac. And here we would say this cup resembles what is the provision of God. And for a lot of us, just like with Abraham, we may have already received provision from God. Here being this water that's being poured into this cup here. Now, at this point, a lot of us will just think, okay, God has already given us, and this is where it stops. This is where we will use whatever we have, and we will rely on ourselves. And this is a grave mistake that we can make, because God never really says that in his provision that he's only going to give us just some set amount. What he really wants is for us to be able to come back to him and seek him and ask him for more. Because in fact, even though I just poured from this cup, God's provision is still there. And that really is something that is amazing to look at. Because again, throughout this story, Abraham already had the promise. But it wasn't until when he had this challenge faced, in which God really asked him to show who was it that he loved. Did he love Isaac or did he love God more? In that case, God, who may be asking us to do many other things, to do great things, things that may seem impossible for us to do with our resources, at that point, God is saying, you know what? I have what you need, and I want to give you more. And although we really still at that point may doubt what God is trying to provide us here, it is at that time that he says, no, I want to give you even more.
And so that's really important, especially for this week too, because on Friday we are celebrating Good Friday, in which we celebrate that Jesus went and died on the cross in our place. And then we'll celebrate on Sunday the fact that he rose from the dead, proving that he is God. He is more powerful. And I think it just goes to show that God will provide for us. So it should have been us on that cross. Just like in the story, we honestly should have been Isaac, where we should have died as the sacrifice. But instead, Jesus came and he took the place for us. And he became the perfect sacrifice. So he kind of becomes that ram that ended up dying in the place of Isaac. And so it's really powerful message this week that God provides for our needs, even the ones that we don't know that we have. Like, we didn't know that we were going to end up dying for our sins someday. But instead of actually dying for our sins, God provided for us and sent Jesus to die in our place. And so we're going to talk more on Saturday about more of God's provision and what that looks like using the words of Jesus. And so we encourage you to just lean into what God is providing for you and stop thinking that what God has given you is enough, because he still has more to give you and more to give you. So be encouraged, and we will see you later.
Yeah, don't worry about it, because God, even though you may think that this cup is empty, God still has even more for you.
We'll see you then.
See ya.